What if I told you that an ancient, almost forgotten text describes our reality in a way that sounds remarkably similar to modern physics? We're not talking about some obscure prophecy. We're talking about the Gospel of the Egyptians, a Gnostic text that offers a mind-bending perspective on the nature of existence. It suggests that everything we see, everything we are, is fundamentally made of light. This isn't just a metaphor. It's a profound cosmological statement that predates quantum mechanics by nearly 2 millennia. So, how did these ancient mystics arrive at such a radical idea? And what does it mean for our understanding of reality today? Let's journey back in time and explore the luminous universe of the Gnostics. The Gospel of the Egyptians, also known as the Holy Book of the Great Invisible Spirit, is one of the many fascinating texts discovered at Nag Hammadi, Egypt in 1945. These weren't your typical biblical scriptures. They were part of a collection of Gnostic writings, a school of thought that flourished in the early centuries of the Common Era. The Gnostics were spiritual seekers who believed in gnosis, or direct, intuitive knowledge of the divine. They saw the material world as a sort of illusion, or at best a flawed copy of a higher, spiritual reality. Their goal was to transcend this physical realm and reunite with the true source of all being. Central to their cosmology is the idea of a supreme, unknowable God, often referred to as the invisible spirit or the monad. From this ultimate source, a series of divine emanations, or eons, come into being. These aren't separate gods, but rather aspects or facets of the one divine consciousness. Imagine a single, pure white light passing through a prism and separating into a spectrum of colors. Each color is distinct, yet all originate from the same source of light. This is how the Gnostics envisioned the creation of the spiritual planes. The Gospel of the Egyptians describes this process in breathtaking detail. It speaks of a light that shines, a fountain of light, and a thrice-named entity that is a light from a light. The text is filled with this kind of luminous imagery. It states that the great invisible spirit is an eternal light. From this light emerges a being called Barbelo, often depicted as the first divine thought, or feminine principle, and from 10 further emanations of light beings cascade downwards, forming a complex spiritual hierarchy known as the pleroma, or the fullness. So where does our physical reality fit into all of this? According to the Gnostics, our world came into being through a sort of cosmic accident. One of the lower eons, often named Sophia or Wisdom, in her desire to create on her own, without her divine counterpart, produced a flawed creation. This being, known as the Demiurge, is an ignorant and arrogant creator who believes he is the one true God. He then fashions the material universe, trapping sparks of the divine light from the pleroma within physical bodies. This is the core of the Gnostic worldview. We are divine sparks, particles of light, trapped in a material prison. Our bodies, the planets, the stars, everything in the physical universe is a vessel for this trapped light. The ultimate purpose of human life, from a Gnostic perspective, is to awaken to our true, luminous nature and escape the cycle of reincarnation in the material world, to return to the pleroma, the realm of pure light. Now, let's fast forward to the 20th century. A scientist named Albert Einstein publishes his famous equation, E equals mc. This simple but revolutionary formula tells us that energy and mass are two sides of the same coin. Matter is not solid and inert. It's a highly concentrated form of energy. Everything you see around you, the chair you're sitting on, the device you're watching this on, your own body is essentially frozen energy. And what is one of the most fundamental forms of energy? Light. Quantum field theory takes this even further. It tells us that the universe isn't made of tiny, solid billiard balls. Instead, the fundamental building blocks of reality are fields invisible, vibrating fields of energy that permeate all of space and time. What we perceive as particles, like electrons and photons, are just localized excitations or ripples in these fields. So, in a very real, scientific sense, the universe is a symphony of vibrating energy fields. The solid world we experience is an illusion created by the interactions of these fields. Let's think about this. The ancient Gnostics, through introspection and mystical experience, described a reality made of emanations of light. Modern physics, through mathematical equations and empirical experiments, describes a reality made of excitations in quantum fields. The language is different, the methods are different, but the core concept is shockingly similar. Both systems suggest that the tangible, material world is not the fundamental reality. Instead, it's a manifestation of a deeper, more subtle, and energetic substrate. The Gospel of the Egyptians says, "The Father of all is a light." It describes the generation of divine beings as a process of light emanating from light. This sounds a lot like how physicists describe the creation of particles. When enough energy is concentrated in one place, particle-antiparticle pairs can literally pop into existence from the vacuum, from the underlying quantum field. It's a process of energy converting into mass, of the field manifesting as particles. Is it possible that the Gnostics were describing this same fundamental process in mythological terms? Consider the concept of the divine spark. The Gnostics believed a fragment of the divine light is trapped within each of us. In modern terms, you could see this as a metaphor for consciousness. What is consciousness? Science still doesn't have a definitive answer, but some cutting-edge theories, like Orcoar, propose that consciousness might arise from quantum processes happening within the microtubules of our brain cells. It's a bit of a stretch, but it hints that the very essence of our awareness could be rooted in the same quantum weirdness that governs light and energy. More. The Gnostic idea of the material world as a lower density reflection of a higher frequency spiritual world finds an echo in theories like string theory. String theory postulates the existence of extra dimensions beyond our familiar 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time. Our entire universe, according to some interpretations, might be a brain, a 3-dimensional membrane floating in a higher dimensional space, or bulk. The events in this higher dimensional reality could influence our own, just as the Gnostics believed the pleroma influenced the material world. Of course, we must be careful not to draw false equivalences. Gnosticism is a spiritual and mythological system, not a scientific theory. Its light is a spiritual metaphor for the divine, while the light of physics refers to the electromagnetic spectrum. The Gnostics arrived at their conclusions through mystical revelation, not the scientific method, but the parallels are too striking to ignore. They suggest that the human mind, whether through ancient intuition or modern science, may be tapping into the same fundamental truths about the nature of reality. What the Gnostics called the invisible spirit, or the monad, physics might call the unified field, or the quantum vacuum, the source from which all things emerge. What the Gnostics called eons, or emanations of light, physics calls quantum fields, or elementary particles. What the Gnostics called the divine spark trapped in matter, we might call consciousness, or life itself, an emergent property of complex energy systems. The Gospel of the Egyptians and other Gnostic texts aren't just historical curiosities. They offer a powerful alternative perspective. They remind us that for thousands of years, humans have looked at the world and sensed that there's more to it than meets the eye. They remind us that the quest to understand our place in the cosmos is a deeply human endeavor, one that unites the mystic and the scientist across the ages. This ancient wisdom encourages us to look beyond the surface of things, to question the seemingly solid nature of our reality. If everything is ultimately light and energy, then the separation we perceive between ourselves and the world around us is in some sense an illusion. We are not separate from the universe. We are a part of it. We are, as the Gnostics believed and as modern science seems to confirm, quite literally made of starlight. The atoms in our bodies were forged in the hearts of stars, and the energy that animates us is part of the same cosmic web that constitutes the entire universe. So, the next time you look up at the night sky or feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, remember the message of the Gospel of the Egyptians. Remember that you are connected to it all. You are a being of light, a spark of the divine, living in a universe that is far more mysterious, interconnected, and luminous than we can possibly imagine. This ancient text doesn't provide scientific answers, but it asks the right questions and points us toward a truth that both mystics and physicists are still trying to fully comprehend, that reality itself is a magnificent display of light. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the luminous world of Gnostic cosmology. If you found this exploration fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next deep dive into ancient mysteries and modern science. See you next time.